Hi, I'm David Cogswell. I'm here with Themba Khumalo, CEO of South African Tourism at the Africa's Travel Indaba trade show in Durban, South Africa, and this is Insider Travel Report. Mr. Khumalo, how are you today?
I'm feeling so excited and so rejuvenated, especially now that we've drawn to the end of Africa's Travel Indaba, which has been a resounding success.
That's fantastic. As obviously everybody knows, we've been through a horrible 2 years of pandemic, and it actually was so bad it had the unprecedented effect of causing Indaba to be canceled for 2 years. So this is the first one in 3 years, which is quite a step. How's the show been? Obviously, you say it's a success. Is the attendance up where you expected it to be?
Absolutely. So, we judge a show based on a number of metrics. So the first one is we judge it by the number of commercial meetings that actually happen. And we had 22,000 meetings that had been scheduled, which are opportunities for African product to actually be bought, by the buyers that have come in here. And as at the end of trading yesterday, we had over 15,000 of those already done in 2 days, and we know that by the end of today we will exceed that target. The second thing that we look at is we look at how many small businesses have been able to come into the fold, because the big businesses are able to trade on their own. But how many new small businesses have we brought in? We brought in 120 from across all of the stands, and then we brought in an additional 90 new businesses, 90 new businesses that have never been to a trade show ever. We call them the hidden gems, and we brought them in. And then we created a speed marketing platform where they're able to sit in front of an international buyer that they'd never have the opportunity to do and sell their product. And we've had 60 such engagements of small businesses being able to sit in front of buyers and trade their product. So we know without a shadow of a doubt that the show has been absolutely successful. And let me throw in this one last statistic. It's the fact that for the first time ever, out of the USA, we've had 50 buyers come in out of the 486 buyers that have come to the to the show, and that large presence of American buyers coming into the show is testimony to the fact that the market is rebounding. The fact that the product here is attractive to American travelers, and we're very excited about that.
Tourism is highly important to South Africa. There was no industry that was hit as badly as tourism. Can you give our viewers back home a little idea how important tourism is to South Africa?
So the reason why tourism is so important, and we call tourism, we say here, tourism is the new gold, because our economy is based on the mining industry. We've got rich minerals and stuff here. But the thing that tourism is able to do is able to spread the wealth. So the dollar that comes into the economy is able to trickle down to the small communities around the country, and is able to really make meaningful impact in the lives of the people that are in the sector. The barriers to entry into the sector are sufficiently low for it to bring a lot of people in. It creates jobs, it sustains jobs. Young kids are able to go to school and get an education that would never be able to get an education if tourism did not bring that revenue into the environment. So every time an American traveler comes in here, a European traveler comes in here, it is really meaningful to the people of the country that are not in the mainstream economy. So for that reason, it is very important for us to keep tourism growing, and we encourage, Americans, Europeans, everyone is welcome to come to this country, and their travel here is really meaningful. It will have a meaningful impact on the economy and on real lives of people.
That's great. In terms of the challenge you have now of trying to rebuild this business, what is your recovery strategy?
Okay, so the recovery actually began in the middle of the lockdown, to be quite honest. So just as it happened, as you know, across the world, a lot of businesses shut down, people moved out of the sector, it lost a lot of skills because people had to go and find, you know, a livelihood somewhere else. But so that made the product that remained a lot more resilient. So those that, you know, remained were able to reshape the businesses, sharpen the profit expectations, take unnecessary cost out of the system, and make sure that the product offering is a lot sharper, is a lot more, you know, focused on, you know, the fundamentals, you know, that a traveler would be looking for. But what also happened in the middle of the lockdown is new product came in. So new hotel groups, you know, were born in the middle of the pandemic. New, you know, glamping, you know, which is, you know, glamorous, you know, camping, you know, experiences were born in the middle of the pandemic. New entertainment platforms were born in the middle of the pandemic. New restaurants opened up. So I actually believe we're in better shape now than we were when we went into the lockdown. So all the inefficiency was taken out of the system, and it made room for new entrepreneurs to come in. So even if you've been to South Africa before, when you come to South Africa now, you'll experience a completely different level of vibrancy, of service, of experience, you know, deep immersive experiences that you'd not normally have had, you know, if you had come in before the pandemic. So that's on the supply side. I also know that from, you know, on the demand side, we've got a new kind of traveler that is coming, you know, into South Africa. And we are seeing this traveler coming out of the US in particular, to be quite honest. And that is people that are traveling for a purpose. So it's not just traveling because I want to go and have a holiday, but I want to travel to a place where I know that when I'm there, the things that I care about, I'll be able to make a contribution to, whether it is sustainability, you know, environmental issues, conservation, inclusivity, and also on the product side, you know, being able to interact with art, with food, with fashion. And while people are here also looking for entrepreneurial opportunities, you know, where people can actually trade and form new business and commercial engagements. So it's a completely different kind of travel mindset. People don't want to just travel to a place and lie on a beach. You can do that anyway, you know. They want to travel and make sure that their travel was meaningful in more ways than just, you know, giving them a break from the usual life. And what we're finding is that is giving entrepreneurs in South Africa and across the continent an opportunity to really engage with, you know, travelers and really create sustainable, you know, and enduring relationships going forward.
That's fantastic. You preempted my next question, but that was the idea that with the pandemic having such a powerful effect in so many ways that we haven't even been able to ascertain yet, what you're seeing in terms of the changes in demand, and you just named, I think, the main one. Are you seeing other kinds of changes in what people are looking for when they come here?
Well, two additional things. One, from a you know, a supply side, we're seeing a lot of demand for wellness experiences, where people just want to check out of, you know, sitting in bricks and mortar environments, and they want to go into a place where they can, you know, both, you know, receive, you know, physical treatment, but also mental and psychological, you know, re-engagements, and really have almost like a spiritual reawakening, you know, body, mind, and spirit in totality. So, and we're seeing a lot of that really growing, you know. It is also, you know, supported by, you know, a demand for, you know, more sustainable, more green, more, you know, conservation of the environment and things like that. So that particular, you know, space, we're seeing it growing. We're seeing a lot more investment on the supply side in those spaces, because obviously the demand for those kinds of experiences is increasing. But there's something else that we're also seeing, you know, in the middle of that mix, is that when people, you know, are thinking about travel, they're no longer postponing it. So whereas people were, you know, there's a lot more urgency in travel. I think because of the loss of life that has happened globally, and people, almost everyone knows somebody who, was COVID positive, whether they survived or not. And a lot of people have got a lot of lost, family members, loved ones that have passed on, due to the pandemic. So people have realized we don't have time. Life is not, we're not as invincible as we thought we were as a human race. So people are no longer postponing things that are meaningful to them. Travel is a lot more urgent. People are now saying, I was going to go to Africa 2 years from now. I'm going to go now because I don't know if I'm going to be around 2 years from now. Let me prioritize the things that are really meaningful and get them done. So we're seeing a lot more of that. There's a lot more urgency, a lot more purpose, a lot more focus. And I think that is fantastic, actually. Let me just add this one thing, which is the last piece, because people had to travel domestically. People couldn't go anywhere, but you could travel within your country. So a lot of dollars or rands in our case that were leaving our country, African people traveling overseas, all of a sudden could only travel domestically. And because of that, people have rediscovered the beauty of their own country. And I think that's true for all countries, around the world. And because of that, I think it has built a lot more compassion and empathy towards what happens when a traveler is in our country. So I think that we are actually becoming a lot better at hosting the world here because we ourselves now have actually traveled, our own country. That we've also seen across the continent because continental travel, so intracontinental travel in Africa was not as vibrant as it is now because people were always looking to travel outside of the continent, but we were forced to travel within the continent. So we are now having a great appreciation for one another, and I think that we'll be able to host the world a lot more powerfully, going forward, because we now understand what it's like when Europeans don't come to us. We understand what it means for, livelihoods. We understand that. So I think our hosting culture, is a lot more empathetic, a lot more sharper, a lot more vibrant, a lot more appreciative. I said to somebody earlier on, when I looked at people coming for Africa's, travel Indaba here in Durban, in South Africa, it was like a long lost lover, somebody that you couldn't see for such a long time, and suddenly there they were. I mean, I've seen people burst into tears of joy because they hadn't seen each other for 2 years, didn't know whether they were going to see each other, didn't know whether people were still there, and just the joy of seeing one another has been explosive in this place. And I cannot wait, to see more people coming out of the US, coming out of Europe, coming into South Africa, because we miss you. We miss you, really, we do. And we can't wait to see you.
Thank you for that. Before I let you back to your busy duties as CEO, just one more thought. As an American looking at South Africa through the years, there's something very, very special here that no other country has, and I think it's also been accentuated in recent years, which is the idea that right now, with all the dissension, all the division, all the violence, all sorts of horrible things that are going on around the world, South Africa brings some very special answers to those questions, I think, because of your history. You can focus on Nelson Mandela in particular, but what the kind of change that he instituted, showing people how to deal with some of those problems that the rest of the world is still dealing with. It's one of the few places that has a positive political history in this recent period. So I think that's a huge attraction here. How do you feel about that?
No, absolutely, you're right. And we almost lost it, let me be honest. So all of that positivity that, Nelson Mandela started, as we came out of 1994 when we, had our the end to apartheid and everybody coming back together, we really started building a lot of equity within ourselves and sharing it with the rest of the world, we started having our own internal challenges and started becoming a lot more internally focused in terms of, where we were going as a country. And I think what the lockdown, what this pandemic has done, is it's made us refocus on those fundamentals that make us great as a country. And when you hear our politicians speaking, when you hear our business people speaking, our scientists speaking, our civil society leaders speaking, that language, of really being human first before anything else, and looking at another human being as a human being first rather than anything else. We call it Ubuntu, I am because you are, that spirit, we have been able to recapture it as we've been, as we've been dealing with loss, as we've been dealing with adversity, and communities have pulled back together, families have pulled back together, civil society organizations have pulled back together. And that's why, I started off by saying we are in better shape now than we were when we went into the pandemic. We've really rediscovered, the essence of what makes us a great nation. And I, cannot wait to share it with the rest of the world, and I cannot wait for the world to come and experience it again. We have allowed in, the midst of this lockdown, young people who, were standing on the margins because they were waiting to get into the mainstream economy. All of a sudden, there was no economy, and they've just come in and created their own move. So there is a lot more creativity in fashion, in music, in in the entrepreneurial space, in digital. Everything is like young, fresh, vibrant, and I feel renewed myself. And I believe that what we have to offer to the world now is greater than anything we've ever had in the history of this country.
Well, thank you. I feel renewed just hearing you say that. On that note, I want to thank you so much for your time today and your sharing your thoughts with us. And this is David Cogswell, Insider Travel Report. Good night.